Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to the Northeast Study Group meeting for Northeast Trail construction and design updates. As a courtesy, we would like to remind you of ABI's data collection policy. In order to meet our promise of a Beltline for all, we are working to collect demographic and geographic information from all of our participants. This information is strictly for internal reference and research purposes, only to guide us in the outreach and public engagement efforts, and will not be distributed to any other organizations. Again, thank you for participating in tonight's virtual meeting. I am Brittany Brewster, Community Engagement Manager for Atlanta Beltline, Inc., or ABI, which is an organization responsible for implementing the vision on the Beltline. At this time, I will introduce Councilmember Warren to bless us with greetings for this evening. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Councilmember Alex Wan, District 6. It's a pleasure to be with y'all tonight, especially for this particular update. Project's been underway for some time, and we've been getting a lot of questions in our office about status and completion times, and we've been directing everyone to this meeting. So glad you are here. Glad you are still very invested in this section of the Beltline, and we're all looking forward to its completion. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Beltline team to give us the update. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, and thank you. Well, we have several members from the ABI team on tonight's call. Atlanta Beltline Inc. is committed to creating a culture within the organization that values and advances equity and inclusion. Part of that means representation from all of our 45 plus Beltline neighborhoods are actually on staff. Staff members participating with you tonight represent various disciplines across ABI's organization and are here to support your experience with the presentation, the Q&A, and YouTube Live. Now, I will provide you with an overview of tonight's meeting agenda. It looks like we are joined by 19 attendees on the Zoom virtual platform. We are also broadcasting live to YouTube Live. If you are watching on Zoom platform or YouTube, you can follow along the agenda at the top of each. At the bottom, we have a new slide, guys, getting used to it. The agenda is now on the bottom of the slide. If you are listening by phone, I will walk you through that meeting agenda now. Our agenda tonight has opened with a welcome and meeting logistics. We'll follow this with audience polling and a Beltline 101. After that, we will have a presentation about the construction and the design elements of Northeast Trail segments 1 and 3 and the Ponce de Leon Streetscapes project. After this presentation, we will have plenty of time for your questions, your comments, and your conversation. You may have noticed by now that your line is muted, and you will not be able to share your video screen during the meeting to provide the best listening experience for everyone on the line. A recording of this meeting, the presentation, and all other supporting materials will be made available online at www.beltline.org/meetings. If you are having any technical difficulties during the meeting, please email us at engage@atlbeltline.org. Should we encounter any technical difficulties, we appreciate your patience as we sort all things through. Now, before we jump into the project updates, I want to get a sense of the room by asking a few of the questions. As I start the poll, you should see a question pop up on your screen. This feature is not available if you have called in or you are viewing on YouTube Live, but I will read the results out loud to the group. The first question is, what neighborhood do you live in? Is it Ansley Park, Morningside and Lenox Park, Piedmont Heights, Sherwood Forest, Midtown, Virginia Highlands? Maybe it's a Beltline neighborhood in the city of Atlanta, not on this list. A city of Atlanta neighborhood not on the Beltline, or a neighborhood outside of the city of Atlanta. All right, looks like about 80% of participation has come in. So we can go ahead and end that poll and share the results for the audience. All right, and it looks like we have Virginia Highlands and Midtown coming in strong, in addition to a Beltline neighborhood in the city of Atlanta not on this list. Next question. How long have you lived in your neighborhood? Is it 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10, or 11 or more years? All right, let's go ahead and end that poll and show the results as well. And it looks like majority of the participants tonight have lived in their neighborhoods for 11 or more years. All right. Now I want to know, what is your relationship to the Atlanta Beltline? Do you use the trail? Are you a homeowner? Do you rent a home on the Beltline? Maybe you are a residential landlord, a business owner, a commercial landlord, a developer, real estate broker, community activist, or maybe you are just generally interested in the project. All right, you can go ahead and stop that poll result and share the results. So a good 82% report that they actively use the trail. Great. Next question. What are you most likely to be doing on the trail? Exercising or recreation? Maybe you use the trail to run errands, to go to school or to work, to engage in leisure activities, or maybe you don't use the trail at all. All right, you can stop the poll and end the results, please. All right, and 83% use it for exercise and recreation. And last polling question before we jump right into the project updates. Is tonight your first Beltline meeting? It's a simple yes or no. All right, go ahead and stop that poll. So about 94% reported that no, they've actively been engaged with us for some time now. And about 6% reported that this will be their first meeting. Well, to those that are new, welcome, and I hope you enjoy tonight's experience. But for that reason alone, we want to let you know exactly what the Beltline is doing and how we are progressively making a mark in Atlanta. So what does the Beltline mean? Our vision is to be a catalyst for making Atlanta a global beacon for equitable, inclusive, and sustainable city life. That means 22 miles of trail transit, 1,300 acres of new green space, 33 miles of multi-use trails, 5,600 units of affordable workforce housing, $10 billion in economic development, 48,000 in construction jobs, and 30,000 permanent jobs, public art, environmental cleanup, and exactly why I'm here with you all tonight, which is community engagement. All of these elements make up the wonderful Atlanta Beltline. Megan, I'm going to hand things over to you to talk a little bit more about segment 1.
All right, thank you. So I am here to talk about Northeast Trail segment 1. This goes from Westminster Drive, following the Carriage Trail through Piedmont Park, and ends at 10th and Monroe, 10th Street and Monroe Drive, where the East Side Trail currently ends. And this photo is actually of the Carriage Trail under the road that takes you into Piedmont Park. This section of the trail is open and has been open for some time, but I'll get into that in the next slide. Our design team, Heath and Lineback. Our construction team is Reeves Young, whom a lot of you guys have met over the last year. We're at 90% construction completed. This is almost like the most painful part of construction, when you're almost there, but there's so many little things that you need to tweak or install or follow up on. So construction completion, we're tracking mid-November. The majority of things will be done. We did have some pretty long lead times on items that I'll get into in a couple slides, that we're still kind of waiting on for them to arrive. And I think the ribbon cutting will be announced soon. That date should be announced, either if it's not already announced. It might be tomorrow when it's announced through all the ABI social. And the funding source is our TAB. So next slide. So Carriage Trail, again, this is the part that goes through Piedmont Park, connecting Westminster Drive to Evelyn, which is the street where you come in and park either for the botanical gardens or the park itself. It was open months and months ago for people to start using. We did have temporary handrails in place so that we could open it up for people to use. And we have since removed those temporary or those handrails in order to take them back and paint them. I think they should be reinstalled pretty quickly next week. So we're painting them black, and then they will have a black mesh installed in front of them so that you don't really see them as you're traveling through the Carriage Trail, which is heavily wooded. It's a beautiful part of the park. We still have trash cans to install, some bollards to install, and signage along this area to install before the ribbon cutting. Other than the handrails themselves, this is pretty much done. Next slide. We've gotten a lot of questions on when will the Westminster Transit Trail Bridge open. This was kind of a late add to our construction scope, but it needed to be done. So Reeves Young and our design team kind of designed an update to the bridge that had been there for a long time. It was looking a little worn. And this connects Westminster all the way through on the gravel trail to now Park Drive under the Park Drive Bridge. So it is cordoned off right now. We still have to finish paving the plaza that is at Westminster Drive. The large granite blocks for seating were delivered last week, and so we should be pouring that within the next week or so. We know people are anxious to get through this access, so it should be probably in the next 3 weeks. You guys can use it. So next slide. All right, so the biggest stretch within our old railroad corridor goes from Evelyn to Park Drive. You can kind of see us pouring right here in the top left slide. This starts at Evelyn Street by the parking deck and the Carriage Trail and goes all the way to 10th and Monroe. But this corridor right now, we have installed the majority of the storm drainage after a hurricane coming through. It is working well. We've paved the trail, installed the fiber duct bank, which is beneath the trail. The lighting and cameras are up in this area. They are being tested. I'm not sure when we will have our 30-day burn-in period when all the lights come on and we make sure everything's good. That should be coming soon. The walls have been built. We are building out most of our handrail structure at Evelyn right now. We have about 500 linear feet to go with that. So we're working around the clock trying to get that in before the ribbon cutting. And the stainless steel mesh that you see throughout the Beltline corridor is also coming. That is one of the things that we're waiting to be shipped in order to install. We've also got a new mural under Park Drive that was done, one of the first that was done before construction ended and before people started using it, so that was great. And the new dog park entrance gates and the stairs are in place. We should have handrail in probably the next couple weeks, I would say, on those stairs. And I think I've got a photo in the next one. So things we need to do to finish. We do have a wooden guardrail at Evelyn where cars are going into the parking deck. That should be installed next week. Again, handrails to the dog park and then the handrail mesh. We're also going to be tweaking a lot of those handrails as we move closer to the ribbon cutting date. Next slide. All right, so this is kind of Park Drive to Monroe. The top left photo is at Park Drive. These are the new stairs that were completed that go down to the new dog park entrance. We're coordinating with Piedmont Park Conservancy on when and how to open that entrance. Right now it's locked. And the photo next to that in the top right is actually the ramp that's been mostly completed that goes down to the large meadow at Piedmont Park. So we've done all the storm drainage. We've got probably, I would say 99.8% of the trail poured, if not 100%, between Park Drive and Monroe. Lighting and cameras are currently going in and being tested as of today. And the access ramp and stair at the Park Tavern parking lot, that's the photo at the right. The ramp is in, the stair is being poured in the next couple weeks. It's a lot of concrete that's going into that thing. And then we will come back with the handrails. So construction activities to finish in here, again, the stairs. And then the Crest Hill access, which did work through the hurricane, which is great. There's been a long history of flooding issues coming down Crest Hill and going onto the corridor. So it seemed to have worked really well. We are going to revise some of the curb lines on it and add a planter at the end of Crest Hill, as well as a guardrail so that we don't have vehicular traffic trying to hop the curb and get into the Park Tavern parking lot. We've also got guardrail going up in the Park Tavern parking lot right now. Signage, trash cans, those will be in place for the ribbon cutting. And we are switching out, you can kind of see in the bottom photo, we are switching out those wooden light poles for something a little more aesthetically pleasing when you're on the trail. So those actually will come in probably, I would say February. They have a really long lead time in shipping to get to us. So those will come later after the ribbon cutting. Next slide. And this is the slide you all came here for. So construction activity is completed. The storm drainage has been installed at 10th and Monroe. Trails, the 2 trails coming in have been poured. So if you guys travel on the East Side Trail a lot, first off, thank you. We know it's been hectic and a mess and probably not very pleasant for you all traveling. But really, thank you guys for being patient. We hope to be able to remove all of our barriers and our barrels and our fencing soon. Hopefully by next week. But both of the trails have been poured. You might notice there's a totally different angle on the East Side Trail. This is to align with the crossing to the new Northeast Trail, segment 1. So this is kind of the pivot point between both trails. Lighting and cameras, again, they've been installed. I think one of the last lights might have gone up this afternoon on the Northeast Trail. The traffic signals, like the new pedestrian heads, the new ped heads or I guess they would be bike lane signals for the 10th Street bike lane, and the huge new mast arms for the new traffic signals are up. They are not on. We will start our testing next week. I'm going to get into that in a moment, but they are up. A lot of the existing ones that you see out there that have graffiti and stickers and everything on them, those will be removed as part of, the end of this project. So what do we have left to do? We've been working in here since this summer. I get this question a lot. We have one final pour. Okay, I take that back. We have one pour tomorrow for the final part of the sidewalk. It's currently fenced off right now. So that's the last piece of the sidewalk that needs to be poured. And then we have scheduled for next week asphalt to come in as a topper. So we didn't want to pour this final several inches of asphalt until we got everything else demolished in case we accidentally damaged something that we had just put in. So we saved the topper for this very last thing at 10th and Monroe. That's going to happen starting Monday night. It will just be a series of lane closures at the intersection. So nothing more than what you guys kind of see on a daily basis right now with the lane closures. And that's going to happen Monday and Tuesday of next week. It starts at 9 p.m. and it goes to 5 a.m. And this is just for us to be able to finish out the top, meet the asphalt to the curb line, and kind of better feather out some of the slopes and grades going up to the speed table at 10th and Monroe. We will also be starting to test out all of the traffic signals and the new striping. So this is going to be a learning curve for everybody, especially really more towards the Cayuga and the north access at Monroe, either going south or turning right onto 10th. There's going to be some new stop bars. There will be some new signals. It might take some time for people to get adjusted to it. We're going to reach out to APD towards the latter part of next week. They're already out there for a lot of our lane closures. But just to kind of help people through, I have a feeling a lot of people might be running some red lights because it is a totally new situation, especially near Cayuga. So we are going to start testing those out next week with the city of Atlanta. What do we have left to do? Again, the rest of the asphalt. We do have about 52 stainless steel bollards to install starting probably Tuesday around the intersection. This should be minimal interference with the sidewalk. Please be patient with us. It shouldn't take us long to get these in. We have new signage coming in, and then we also have new trash cans. So if you see the bottom photo where this was before we started, I always like to go back and remember where we came from. So we did have some pretty bad flooding issues on the trail. Those have since been worked on and taken care of with the new alignment. We're also going in and working on some of the existing East Side Trail drainage and drainage structures, and reworking some of that to take on a little bit more water. And we're going to get new trash cans, so we won't have the Herbie Kirby's anymore up there. There is going to be the other things that we still need to do, the permanent paint for the crossings and the vehicular lanes. We're putting down temporary striping next week when we finish the asphalt topper. We will put down the permanent within 3 to 4 weeks of the asphalt being down. That's just general protocol for these products. So next week, I think we're going to start getting signage out, just warning people of night lane closures starting tomorrow. But it's not a full closure. And we also have APS fall break next week. So we specifically chose this week so that we would be able to work longer day hours and also not have any interference at night with any of our night work and activities going on either at Midtown High or at the stadium. So with that, I think that was my last slide. Yes. All right. Sean Green, you're up.
Thanks, Megan. Good evening, everybody. Sean Green here, Principal Engineer, Atlanta Beltline, and I am also the project manager for the Northeast Trail. Segment 3 in the connector trails is what we call it, but this is the area north of I-85, connecting into Armour-Otley, connecting into Peachtree Hills, connecting into Piedmont Heights, connecting up into Lindbergh. So Heath and Lineback is also our design team on this one. We've been in the right-of-way phase for about a year now, and we're wrapping that up soon, hopefully by the end of the calendar year, which is on schedule to get us to a spring construction letting where we open bids. And what we have right now in terms of design funding is an 80-20 split. which is wonderful, making as best use of our federal government funding as possible. And then in addition, we've got a good bit of federal monies lined up for construction. And again, we're trying to seek some more to get to that magic ratio of 80% to 20%. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our connectivity here is a relatively short mainline section of trail. It's only a half-mile long, and you can see that called out in the middle purple as segment 3. And we've got a couple different connector trails. Connector 1 runs along the north bank of Peachtree Creek, generally speaking, between Peachtree Hills and Piedmont Road at Garson Drive. Connector 2 runs along Garson Drive from Piedmont Road up to the MARTA station at Lindbergh Center. And then underneath the Piedmont Road Bridge over Peachtree Creek, Connector 3 extends over to Adena Drive and connects in with the Path 400 Trail, which also gives access to the South Fork Conservancy Trails and the future Peachtree Creek Greenway Trail. And as alluded to, Connector Trail 4 follows Armour Drive and Clayton Road, and that provides access around the Armour-Otley district there. Next slide, please. So this is a rotated north. So instead of up, north is generally speaking to the right. Really the implication here is one of connectivity, but what I wanted to make sure everybody's aware is, how interesting and different this section of trail is going to be. The half mile roughly of mainline trail that gets us from the freeway at I-85 up to and connect in with the Northwest Trail at Peachtree Hills. That half mile of trail is going to be entirely on structure. We'll be going over the railroad yard. We'll be going up over the conservation easement. We'll be going up over CSX track, and we'll be going up over Peachtree Creek. So there's going to be a lot of looking down and looking out over some vistas, and it should be pretty neat when all is said and done. And so I've already kind of run through these connections here. So next slide, please. So Kinsey Court in the Peachtree Hills community, you can see the cul-de-sac that exists right now in terms of a before and after type of a situation in the same rough view. The mainline trail on the right, you can see the Northeast Trail right in front of the person in the wheelchair, and then let me make sure I said that correctly. The Northeast Trail is terminating right in front of the person in the wheelchair at this plaza, and then the Northwest Trail is where the bicycle is on the far right side. The trailhead that you see straight in the back of the middle of the photo is a connector trail that follows the north bank of Peachtree Creek over behind ADAC, over behind Passion City Church to get over to Piedmont and Garson. Next slide, please. And then this is the Piedmont Road Bridge over Peachtree Creek. You can see the existing kudzu forest there on the left. And then what we are planning on achieving with that on the right, again, the intention is to bring the trail continuously underneath Piedmont Road so we don't have to have a trail interface at the traffic signal and all the delay and all of the jockeying for position and whatnot. It really doesn't feel safe out there to be crossing at grade. This, we think, is going to be a huge improvement and network connectivity between Path 400 and the other trails to the east with Beltline. And within this proposed imagery here, you can kind of make out the switchback ramp that we'll get from the connector trail down at this level here underneath Piedmont Road up to the elevation of Garson, which is, 12 or 15 feet higher. Next slide, please. And then just kind of to get to the point where we can get to construction, we do have a final field plan review meeting with our 90% plans with Georgia DOT. I believe that's actually next week. We're trying to wrap up our right-of-way acquisitions, like I said, this calendar year, but hopefully within the month of November. ultimately we have to get our certifications for utilities, for our environmental reevaluation, and all of the right-of-way needs to be clean. So with those certifications, we get the request for a PS&E package, which stands for plans, specs, and estimates. That's kind of the final submittal in terms of a Federal Highway Administration review. And so they'll be, with that review and concurrence, they'll authorize funding, which is our critical path to be able to get the bids out and opened, and then ultimately start construction. So there's still a little bit of work to do, obviously, over the course of the next 9 months or so. But okay, so there's a lot of work to do over the next 9 months or so. But we're on schedule, and we should be able to get this thing going into construction this coming summer. So I think that's my last slide, and I'll turn it back to Nancy. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sean, and good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Nancy Newell, and I am the project manager for the Ponce Streetscape project. And with any luck, this will be the last time that you guys hear me talk about Ponce, as we are winding down and wrapping up construction. So with that, let's get into some updates. All right, so Kimley Horn did the design on this and prepared the construction drawings that we are working off of. JHC Corporation was awarded the contract a couple years ago, and they have been the GC on this project. We are currently at about 75% construction completion. Really, we just have the ramp to do. That's kind of the last thing that will close this out, but we can get into that in the next slide. And we started construction back in September of 22, and we have an estimated completion date of January 2025. So next slide. All right, and before we get into the rest of this, I did just want to take a minute to give a shout out to our friends over at ARC. They awarded us the LCI grant, which is the Livable Centers Initiative grant. And without their partnership, this project might not have been possible. So again, thank you so much to ARC. Now, if you have driven Ponce, or if you live around there and have been seeing construction going on the last couple of years, you are probably well aware of all of these items. But for those of you who are new to the party, we have reconstructed the sidewalks along both sides of Ponce, from Boulevard to Freedom Parkway. We've added a landscape buffer and trees where there was room. And speaking of the trees, I do know that there are a few that did not make it through the planting last winter. We are aware of that, and we have already taken a few of those down. There are still a few that are up, and this coming planting season, we will be replacing those. So don't worry if you've seen those and been questioning that. And we've also installed lighting on both sides of the corridor. We have been waiting on what's called a Millbanks panel. We basically need that to be able to turn the lights on. That is being delivered finally next week. And so we expect that to be installed sometime next week or the following week. And then we can really get those lights on and do that 30-day burn-in for those. We have also installed mast arms for the traffic signals at 4 of the signalized intersections between Boulevard and Ponce Place. We have not switched over to the new signal heads. Again, we've been working with Georgia Power as well as GDOT to get those permits. We have received those, and Georgia Power has been out there the last few days working on getting that wiring done to power those signals. So hopefully we can get those turned on and run all the tests. And once everything is good to go, we will be removing those old strain poles and the strain wire and the old signal heads. So that should probably take a couple of weeks to do that work. So just bear with us while we get those switched over. Utility relocations. This is a pretty old corridor. It's urban and has a huge commercial density. So no surprise to anyone, there are a bunch of utilities within this corridor. And we were very nervous to start ripping up the sidewalk and seeing what we would find. But luckily, we didn't run into too many surprises. So we were able to get the project done without a lot of utility delays there. We also did the bike lane improvements, which consisted of milling and resurfacing the existing bike lanes, as well as extending the eastbound lane from where it originally ended in front of Ponce City Market over to Ponce Place. And then we've also done the signing and pavement striping. The last remaining item with that would be to install the flexible delineator posts on the buffered bike lanes. So that should be coming towards the end of the project. And then we also have a few punch list items. We've got to pour some segments of the sidewalk. Excuse me. So we aren't done necessarily with the lane closures just yet. So if you are out there using the sidewalks, driving the corridor, just be cautious that we will still be out there working. And then the next item is the Beltline connection that I'm sure everyone is excited about. We finally got to work on that a couple weeks ago, and we've been making good progress on that. It's going to take us several more weeks to get the walls in and get that structure ready for the ramp. But we are targeting January of this coming year to wrap everything up. All right, next slide. All right, and then I just have a few photos to finish this out here. This is where the ramp is going. So the photo on the left shows when we excavated the slope. You can kind of see where they trenched into the slope in those little slots. And that is because the wall system that they're using is, it comes in pieces and it actually like fits into those little slots and kind of stack onto each other. And then the photo on the right there, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a footer at the bottom of that photo. And that's what the wall actually sits on top of. You can go to the next slide. All right, so here is, I think both of these were taken last week, and I think the wall has actually gotten taller since then, but the photo on the left shows the wall system, and you can kind of see it looks like a grid, and that's actually, separate pieces, like I said, that have been placed and then stacked on top of each other and placed right next to it. And then the photo on the right was taken from the trail, looking down on that wall, and you can see where it's been backfilled. So they, put a row down, backfilled behind it, put another row on top of it, backfilled behind it, put another row. So they're just stacking and backfilling as they go. It's a pretty new system for us. I don't think we've ever used this type of wall system on our trail before, so this has been pretty interesting to watch. All right, next slide. Okay, and then these are just showing the signing and the pavement markings that have been completed. These are both in front of Ponce City Market. And the photo on the right is showing that new crosswalk that we installed. Before we started, there was just one crosswalk on the west side of Ponce City Market on that intersection with Midtown Place. But we have installed a second crosswalk just to help with the flow of traffic and bike lanes and pedestrians who are really trying to get to either the ramp or the north side, the northeast side of that intersection so that they don't have to cross over the Midtown Place driveway. That's pretty busy. And I believe that finishes my slide, so I will turn it back over to Brittany.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Sean, as well. As stated in the beginning of the meeting, we will answer as many live questions as time permits. Questions and comments can be typed or verbally expressed by raising your hand. Our audience is made up of Zoom online, phone attendees, and I believe I was saying YouTube earlier, but we're actually on live with Facebook. So this questioning series is also available to Facebook Live attendees. Let's briefly review how we can all contribute to this conversation. For the phone attendees, if you would like to speak, press *9 on the telephone keypad to raise your hand when the discussion begins. A member of our team will open the line when it's your turn, and your phone will be prompted to press *6 to unmute yourself. For the Zoom online attendees, you can submit a response at any time in the Q&A box. In addition, you can upvote a response by clicking the thumbs up icon. The raise your hand feature is also available to the Zoom participants. However, we are prioritizing the phone attendees. And lastly, the Facebook Live attendees, please feel free to participate in the comment section. Someone on our staff will make sure I see your questions. All right, looks like I've got 3 to start the Q&A off. All right, from Dan Cooper. What was the revised plan for the Beltline connection ramp at Ponce de Leon? I think it was originally metal grid like the Edgewood connection, but I believe it's been revised. Can you confirm and show the revised design? And Nancy, if you can tell us which slide that is actually that shows that for Nathan.
So I don't have the design shown in the presentation, but you are correct. It is like the Edgewood connection, but instead of the metal that was used on Edgewood, we are using an aluminum, which we are hoping will be much more dog friendly, easier for our furry friends to walk on. But yeah, it's going to be that great material. We haven't changed that.
Thank you, Nancy. From Ryan, will the third connected trail on the Northeast Segment 3 connect all the way up to Path 400, all the way up to Adena Drive to Sidney Marcus, or will it just be a sidewalk across between the 2 trails, Sean?
No, it's going up to, it'll tie into Adena and tie into the existing Path 400 trail that runs as a side path. It looks like a sidewalk along Adena. This will be to the west of the dog park. This is not going to go all the way up to Sidney Marcus.
Thank you. I think this next one is from Megan. When will the intersection at 10th and Monroe be paved? I've seen multiple bicycles and scooters take the head first spills into the pavement because of the dips and how uneven the road has been for quite a long time. Lack of paving is a pain point for drivers, bicyclists, and commuters using scooters. Please fix and finish ASAP.
Well, Preston, good news for you. Guess you missed my presentation, but we should be done by we're starting night work on the 14th, which is Monday, going into Tuesday to add the last layer of the asphalt topper in the intersection, and then we're pouring the remainder of the sidewalk on Monroe tomorrow. It should be open. I mean, we're sending a crew out probably really early Saturday morning to move barriers for Pride that is this week. This weekend. We know there's going to be a lot of people using the intersection. So yes, it is coming ASAP. Probably next week.
Don't go too far.
Yeah.
Megan from Wayne Hoffman, any update on the work behind Ansley Mall and when the access will be open?
Ansley Mall, so the access should be open. They're working on the back of Ansley Mall. I think there's a new tenant, a restaurant tenant in the back of Ansley Mall. And so they're waiting for work to be done for, I think, the pedestrian access within the back part of Ansley Mall to connect to the bridge safely. I don't think it does right now. Right now, I believe it's just parking. So I'm not sure of the timing. Last I heard, it was kind of up to when the restaurant is open, but that could change. We're not in control of the opening of it. That's C-Lig who owns and runs Ansley Mall. So
Thank you. All right, from Jamie. I recently noticed a bad sewer smell on the Carriage Trail. Is ABI aware of this and there's anything being done about it? I don't think many of us are aware, but I'm sure this is something that we can cater to.
oh
with
no,
our-
we're very
Oh,
aware.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm not aware, excuse me.
Very aware. So this has been an ongoing problem for the Carriage Trail, for Piedmont Park, for as long as the huge, and Sean Green knows the name of the thing that smells. What is it, Sean?
There's a combined sewer area there.
Thank
Mhm.
you. Right next to the trail. So yes, after a rain, it generally is worse. In my very feeble attempts to combat the smell, I planted a lot of rosemary and other good smelling shrubs in that space. Not sure if that's really working, but we'll see as they grow. But yes, we are aware of that as well.
Thank
Nothing we
you.
can really do. So sorry.
Okay, from Chuck, describe the function of the new stop bars. Are they raised and lowered? Where are they used, Atlanta, now for comparison? Where are they? Yeah.
They're just a regular stop bar. I mean, it is a painted on white rectangle. They're just right now everyone's used to stopping like right past on Monroe, right past the Park Tavern turn-ins. You're actually going to be stopping now right where the speed table starts near Canuga. So it's going to be an adjustment. You're not going to be stopping. There's going to be a through lane that will get you through the intersection. So no one is stopping on the raised table. That section by the Park Tavern and Canuga, that area on the north side is going to be the biggest change, I think, for drivers to get used to. It's
Sounds
nothing
good.
fancy, like it doesn't pop out of the pavement or anything. It's just paint.
From Vicky D, after the new transit bridge is completed, is the trail that has been closed off going to get a good grooming? It's not in good shape. Uh, um, it's- who wants to address that one?
I can. Yes, I like how you called it grooming. Thank you. Yes, we have been walking with Trees Atlanta and the Parks Department to kind of go through final items of trimming that area up a little bit. We wanted kind of the goldenrod and some of the other blooming plants, like kind of the last blooms to bloom, to bring in the pollinators before we give it a nice little fall haircut. So it was kind of intentional for us to leave it like that for now, but right before the ribbon cutting and kind of right as the goldenrod starts to die out, we'll give it a good grooming before.
Thank you. From PC, will Northeast Trail Segment 3 go from Mason through the opening under the MARTA line to the bridge over the Norfolk Southern lines to Armour Drive?
Yes, it will go underneath MARTA at Mason Street. It will ramp up adjacent to the MARTA Guideway and then cross over Norfolk Southern Armour Yard and their mainline track. It'll end up basically behind the pickleball facility and then follow that property line north, where it will continue on structure spanning over Armour Drive, ultimately spanning over CSX and Peachtree Creek as well, and then tying into excuse me, tying into Kinsey Court on the Peachtree Hills side of the creek.
Thank you, Sean. Looks like this one was sent earlier while we were in the presentation, so I just reopened it. From Dan, as a general suggestion, Atlanta Beltline, please stop referring to timeline as winter 2025. The timing is very ambiguous as to whether it's January 2025 or December. Thank you, Dan. All right. From Marth, Peachtree Creek lost major pieces of their banks during Helen. Will this impact any parts of design on Peachtree Creek?
I'll take a stab at that. The Northwest Trail is running along Peachtree Creek in some places, and the Northeast Connector Trail is running along Peachtree Creek in several locations. We have been trying to stay above the 100-year flood elevation wherever we can. And for the most part, we've been able to do that. And then where we have not been able to do that, we've tried to set it up so that we're the last to get wet and the first to get dry after the waters move through. We are focusing on stability of slope. We are focusing on trying to make sure that it's a safe condition and that people aren't going to fall into the creek. But for the most part, we have a pretty solid confidence that what we're coming up with is something that will be sustainable and last. In the context of, the potential of multiple 100-year storms within a shorter period of time and 500-year storms, that's where things are going to get exciting. But there's only so much that we can design to, and that's really where we're headed right now. Is we wanted to try to make sure we were above the 100-year flood elevation everywhere possible, and that's the vast majority of both the Northwest and the Northeast trails.
This one might be closely related, Sean. It says, before the current Piedmont Bridge was built, there was a tremendous flooding south of the bridge. Will the Beltline path cause any flooding problems along Clear Creek?
In terms of the Northeast Trail, we do not expect there. Basically, we're submitting a no-rise letter, which basically means from the analysis that we're doing, we're not doing anything really to change the floodway. And then all of the stormwater issues that we have to deal with as a result of our own project, we're following the city's stormwater ordinance. So we don't expect there to be a cause of flooding along Clear Creek as a result of any of the Northeast Trail.
Thank you. All right, I've got 2 phone callers with a few questions. This one is from a 404-783-1838. You should be allowed to speak. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, great. Okay. I actually have questions about 2 waterways. One is the waterway behind Ansley Mall. I was there today, and it appears, and I don't know if this is a Beltline purview or if you're aware of it, there appears to be some sort of sludge leakage right where the bridge comes in from the Beltline into Ansley Mall. So I didn't know if that was your purview or if you're aware of that. It looks like there's a sewer line crossing there. And anyway, since there's been other questions about that waterway, I wanted to ask that. And then I also wanted to ask regarding the Northeast Trail, our neighborhood, Peachtree Hills, suffered a tremendous amount of damage from Helena, and Peachtree Creek crested at 24 feet. It flooded Garden Brook. It flooded Bobby Jones, which is not in our neighborhood, but south of us, downstream from us, rather. And I know there's been a couple of questions about if the Beltline has amended any of their plans, and it sounds like there's not any change. But I do want to ask, what is being done to protect the properties downstream and along the Beltline where trees are being removed in the floodplain, impervious surfaces are being added, which will contribute to more stormwater runoff? Thank you.
Thank you.
In terms of the sludge that you reference, I would encourage you to call 311 and get that work order submitted to Watershed Management. They're the ones with the purview over Clear Creek right there behind Ansley. And then, like I said earlier, in terms of our design criteria, we've set up our intention to put our facilities, our trail surface, and good bit of our structure too above the 100-year flood elevation. So I have not checked to see where Helene landed in terms of with respect to that. I just haven't had a chance yet. But
Hey, Sean,
it's just where we are. Yes, Nate.
I did talk to Jay the other day, and they did some testing. Is that our trail would have stayed dry in the recent flood event that was over there. So
Okay,
I don't
cool.
know. I know that's what Jay told me.
Gotcha. Hey, thanks for that. And there was, oh, and then, so, and like I said, also, as we are putting in a concrete paved trail, we are following the city stormwater ordinance, and, you know, our infiltration is an obligation. Our stormwater retention, detention, conveyance, all of that is an obligation with the city stormwater ordinance.
Thank you. I believe Brian has his hand raised to speak as well. Brian, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. I work in the area around the 10th Street and Monroe intersection. Is there any idea on when it's going to be complete? Because we was running errands today, just for an example. And I mean, it was traffic. Like I guess they like trying to like be careful going across the intersection and stuff like that. And it's creating more traffic because they don't want, I mean, you can't blame the vehicles for, you know, going slow over that intersection when it's not fully paved. Is there any word on that? Or I know I know y'all part is done if I'm not mistaken, or correct me if I'm wrong, but what happens now with that intersection?
Hey, Brian, this is Megan. So we should be finishing up towards the end of next week. Hopefully Wednesday, Thursday, the asphalt paving will be completed, and there will be temporary paint down, and the signal timing will be up and running. So there will be minimal disruptions. I know there's been a lot of traffic because we do have rolling lane closures as we're working on the sidewalks and demolishing the sidewalks. So usually we're one lane down between 9 and 3:30 when we're allowed to work in the intersection. So hopefully next week we should be buttoned up and ready to be fully open with very minimal disruptions. So just give us a week and we should be out of our way. The weather looks somewhat decent for us. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's getting cold next week too. So all that. Thank you, Brian. Looks like these questions are similar as well from Jamie and Chuck. I read about the Botanical Gardens wanting to install a service road to their property. Will this service road cross the Beltline in Piedmont Park? And to piggyback off of that, will the service road? Yes, same thing. Got it.
We have, and Sean can also chime in here too. We've seen some preliminary plans from the Botanical Gardens with the service road or with access. We've only really been coordinating with them on the piece that was finished about a year ago, Northeast Trail 2, because they will have some connectivity there with the trail. And the Westminster crossing will remain. I'm not sure what's happening on either side of the trail crossing at Westminster. And I'm not sure where we would even have resources for that right now, but yeah, maybe Councilmember Juan has some more updated information, or his office does.
And we can be sure to relay that to Councilmember One since he's logged off the call since then, but we will forward these accordingly. From Ryan, this is a little unrelated to the contents of this meeting, but are y'all considering setting a speed limit on the Beltline for bikes and PEVs?
Megan?
Sean? We both like press the buzzer at the same time.
Don't all jump at once.
So what I tell you is that there is already a speed governor on vendor rented electric bikes and scooters on the Beltline corridor. Can't remember what it is, 8, 10, 12 miles an hour, something like that. But in terms of a speed limit, as good of an idea as that may be, the enforcement of it is next to impossible, because the vast majority of bicycles do not have a speedometer. And really what we're asking is for people to just act courteously while they're using the facilities. You know, if it's really packed, maybe a different segment of trail than the packed segment of trail is a better place to go ride a bike, or to just have to take your time and weave through gently, cautiously, carefully, and slowly. Basically, if you're on a scooter or on a bicycle, you should be aware of your surroundings, and you should also be biking and going at a speed that's appropriate for whatever level of congestion is there.
I can add to that really quick, even though that sounded lovely, Sean. I'm not sure if a lot of people are going to abide by it. So we've been working with our asset management team has been working pretty closely with the micro mobility team at City of Atlanta. I think we're actually working on kind of some parking corrals closer to 10th and Monroe as well that can cause some major accidents. When you've just got random scooters and bikes parked places. We have brought up in multiple meetings the idea of at least a posted speed limit. But the one issue is, how do you regulate it? Do you send, our APD path force officers out there with little speed guns? That's not really an option, but yeah.
Well, I can add to that conversation, and
yeah.
I'm a part of the program development along with the real estate and development team, as well as that we are enforcing somewhat of a Beltline ambassador program that should be starting relatively soon. And so they'll kind of serve as an aid, as an assistant for enforcement on behalf of like rules and regulations of the Beltline, and just to like kind of help be cognizant of the activity that's happening out on the Beltline. So that should be starting relatively soon at the top of the year, actually. All right, Brian, you have your hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes. I finally got a chance to try the new section that opened this year. I think is it from oh my God, it's from 85 down to the Ansley Mall portion. Am I correct? My question is, what happens after that? When you go to like 85, where does the trail stop right there? Because I got lost right there and stuff. So I just, I didn't have a choice but to turn around and come back into, going back towards the trail. So do we have any plans on that, or that's just where that portion is gonna stop?
So Brian, when you come out of the 85 tunnel on the north side of I-85, where these purple lines are, the trail, the Northeast Trail, segment number 3, has a short half mile of main line to connect up into Peachtree Hills, which connects to the Northwest Trail. So that will be the connectivity that completes the loop, if you will. But there'll also be other connectivity to get over to Piedmont and up Garson to Marta Lindbergh, or underneath Piedmont to get to Path 400, or around Armor Otley as well. So that plan, or that construction schedule starts this coming summer, is what we're targeting, August of 25. And then to the question that Hugh has, we're looking at about 3 years of construction for everything that's in purple here. It's not to say we won't be able to work with a contractor to bring something forward, but there's a lot of, I'm going to go with contractor choreography here. We're going to have to build this thing in a certain way because so much of it is on structure and the access is very limited and tight, that we're going to have to do a lot of order of operations. Is going to be absolutely critical to a successful construction project, because if it's not done with the proper order of operations, we'll end up building stuff that gets in the way of other construction. So there's going to be a lot of backing out, if you will, go all the way in and then back out. So we'll have, once we get a contractor on board, we'll have a lot more understanding of schedule. We'll have a lot more understanding of means and methods. Until we get to that point, we're just making projections. So best guess right now is 3 years of construction starting in August of next year.
Great.
So that
And
punches out both of those.
yeah, it does. All right. I think we've done a good job tonight. Ebony, if you want to close us out with the polling questions, please. Was that tonight's information presented to you helpful tonight? And Ryan, we saw your comment. No problem. That's what we're here for. We are happy to host meetings just like this and the ones down the line as well. All right. Looks like we can lock that in. It looks like 100% said yes. This information was very informative. Next poll question. Did you learn something new? Yes or no? All right, we can lock that in and share the results. 100% report that they learned something new. Happy to help you all. Next slide question should reveal exactly how you'd be able to get in contact with us. Again, I am the Community Engagement Manager. Oh, I think I skipped the poll question. Ebony, can you go back, please?
I was behind. I was behind.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the contact information. Again, I'm the Community Engagement Manager, so please feel free to reach out to me if there's any concern or a comment or an additional question that you have. My information, Megan in charge of Northeast Trail Segment 1, Sean in charge of 3 and the connectors, and of course, Nancy, who should be wrapped up pretty soon with Ponce de Leon, is listed above as well. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm happy to have you join. And I guess see you on the Beltline Trail. Have a wonderful weekend.